Hi everyone, welcome to our An Interview With series. Today we are joined by Tim Davies, an AI expert from Projekt Rising. Hi Tim, thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to have this conversation. It'd be good just to give a little overview about your life to start with, your career, how things started for you. If you just want to give us an insight.
Thanks for having me. So I started hacking computer games in the early 90s. There was a game called Dune 2 where it had a 2D map and you could choose the position. If you knew how to hack the code, you could choose the starting position of everything in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you could create your own whole new levels. It was kind of an evolution of sort of Dungeon Master and Hero Quest by just hacking out this computer game. And I realised I really enjoyed getting into the guts of software and seeing how you could change things. Studied computing at university. We started playing with neural networks there, but the amount of data required, the amount of compute required to make something work successfully just didn't exist then. The internet was still in its very early phases and there just wasn't the access to information. So left university, got a job as a good graduate, worked for Perkins Engines, became Caterpillar, worked there for 14 years through a variety of different roles. Started just as a software engineer, realised that within Caterpillar, project management was more highly favoured than software development, moved into project management, jumped into engineering, did some engineering projects, ended up running a team in research, running the research around after treatment and hybrid engines, ran the first hybrid engine within Perkins, fantastic job, moved into business transformation, where I'm going to move it now, where we were looking at all of the processes across the 7 sites that that particular part of the business owned, how we can improve them, what opportunities there were to make them better. And I got bored. And there was a voluntary severance scheme, so I left Caterpillar and started a wedding car hire company. My daughter was just getting ready to start school, so I spent some time with her, and then got offered a job for a platform that my wife had insisted I place a profile on when I left to start this wedding car hire nonsense. And that was the company that became Upwork. So it was one of the very early freelancing online platforms. And I held a variety of roles there, ended up running the enterprise function internationally, so helping all of the international companies onboard their freelancers, running a team of project and program managers. Had a lot of fun there, saw a lot of the world, bit too much of the world, too long hours, decided I needed a change, and the software that they had didn't quite do what I thought was needed. It was very good at matching a single freelancer with a single hiring manager, but in a corporate environment they wanted teams of people to solve a problem. They didn't want to worry about engaging with a freelancer. So I took an employee of mine who travelled with me across a variety of different roles, and we started Projekt Rising together to look at whether we could automate project management and that ability to take a team of freelancers and solve a problem. That was beginning of 2017, and that got me back into, look what we can do with AI now. And so we spent 6.5 years playing with AI technologies, building out the capability of this software stack so that we could measure the happiness of the people that were interacting on projects, simulate the conversation styles of a project manager. So there was no project manager generally. There was somebody watching in case a project went wrong, but all of the stages of handing off a task between freelancers was being done by the software. When the stakeholders were getting feedback, it was being drafted by the software using a very early version of GPT-3, which then became ChatGPT. So we'd had lots of fun playing with these technologies, seeing what was possible. And one of my mentors at a coaching group that I'm part of had been constantly saying to me, when are you going to start talking about AI, Tim? And I ran out of excuses. So we did some presentations at a local business networking event, and it just snowballed from there. And very quickly, the majority of our work was artificial intelligence. Initially consulting, helping people understand what the technology options were, and then more and more building custom AI solutions.
So you had a varied background then, from game hacking to consulting and mechanical engineering. So you've always had a problem-solving mindset, and you've just experienced a project manager role yourself for quite a few years, and then you've kind of gone down this path, and you kind of found yourself looking at AI as the solution.
It sounds like a nice linear flow, but
apart from the wedding car company.
Yeah, that was a little bit.
I've still got the wedding car. It's a great vehicle. The company, not so much.
And okay, so here we are now. What kind of clients are you dealing with? What kind of solutions are you offering?
So we're working with 5-man organisations up to multinational corporations. General focus is on local companies, but we've got some companies who we like working with who are all over the place, and we're helping them with such a wide portfolio of different solutions, it's almost difficult to categorise them. So essentially leaning into the capabilities that large language models have brought, combined with lots of other elements in order to solve a business problem. So for one business, building surveyor, it might be how do we take the process of a site visit and convert that into a fully automated report that's produced without them having to write anything down. For another organisation, it might be looking at all of the briefs that are flowing through the business and helping them to predict, okay, this one's going to take this long, this one's going to cost this much to complete. So when they get a new project request in, they already know to a reasonable confidence level how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost. Right the way through to, on a social aspect, helping companies build out social content calendars so that month to month the calendars for these premium brands are established with post ideas, with the images to support them. So they were, okay, I want a content calendar for the month of November, needs to include this and this, can you come up with some dates, some options, and our software comes up with those and then builds them into what's essentially a PowerPoint presentation that is on brand for the particular company that they're using it for, has got all of the posts detailed out and some image ideas all created for them, and it's made within 2.5 minutes, as opposed to taking a week of somebody's time to pull things together. So very varied depending on the customer need.
Yeah, so you kind of go in, you assess the industry, the product, the solution they have, look at the process, and you can see probably quite quickly at this stage in your career now, that's a certain area that's going to really benefit from kind of AI in that particular process, will save you money and time and a better client experience.
It's almost like you go into a business, what's your biggest challenge?
Right.
And that biggest challenge, then we dive into the detail and we can see the areas where it could be improved. And that improvement might be just bringing some of the software systems forward 20 years so that they're then at a point where they can have additional capability added to them. So when we talk about AI to a company, some companies end up having a database improvement.
Yeah.
Others end up having a completely new, never been built before, doesn't exist anywhere solution. And it's just a spectrum. It depends on what the company's needs are at a time. So it never gets dull.
No.
We've essentially got Lego building blocks that we stitch together with a different customer front end, different output, but those building blocks of capability might be a diffusion model for creating an image, a large language model to perform specific understandings or create specific outputs of text, and then we stitch those together in an automation flow so that the outputs produce seamlessly, wherever possible without a new interface. Because the biggest thing I learned at Upwork was that the customer didn't actually want to interface with the platform. They just wanted it to happen. So if we can have a solution where a customer puts a file in a folder, all of the magic happens and they get a new file put into that folder or an email to them, that's perfect to them. They don't want to get involved in interacting with the system. So wherever possible, let's keep it simple, because then nobody has to worry about how it's actually working. They just do what they've always done.
Yeah.
No change management then.
Yeah. A lot of information there is, because obviously it's so varied, and it could be literally any solution is something that you dive into. So is there kind of more than one that kind of industry, or is it literally completely random? Every single client that you deal with,
it's completely random.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of early adoption in creative and marketing companies. Essentially, when you look at the capabilities of the advertising platforms, they are pushing more and more into offering capabilities to brands to host and post adverts. And then you look at the generation of AI tools that are being built, they're increasing the capability of Joe Blogs to do what a creative agency used to do. So effectively you've got this squeeze where the agencies have got less and less room which they can operate in. And the brands are also desperate to demonstrate that they're doing something around AI. So we're seeing a lot of budget opportunity within those companies and within the agencies to help them on their journey in terms of adopting AI. So an area that wouldn't normally be a first mover is effectively that bit further ahead, just because they've seen the canary in the mine. They know what's happening with copywriting, and they don't want the same to happen to their entire industry.
What's a common pushback when you're speaking to clients or just general conversation when it comes to
It's
AI?
all Terminators.
Yeah, they go straight to the kind of it's not for us maybe, or we're not there yet.
I think if you skip down to the newer generations,
yeah,
may not have seen Terminator.
Yeah.
But anybody sort of 30 and above has had exposure to all of the drama around Judgment Day. And it's crazy how many people just think the world's going to end when AI is mentioned. And the reality so far from that, it's crazy.
The way I hear it is it's going to be saving time. You're going to be freeing up people's actual interaction with people. So a lot of processes and high volume and dealing with lots of quantity of data can be quite time consuming. If you get that kind of boxed off with AI, you can then have a more consultative conversation with your customer, your client, and have more face time. And not be totally consumed by AI. You can just use it where it's needed, so you're not diluting your offering, you're actually enhancing your offering.
You're exactly right. I think people skills are the most crucial thing that we've ever had. People will always buy from people, and that human interaction is going to be higher and higher value. But when you look down your list of the things that you do within your daily work activities, how much of those activities can we automate now? Could we automate in 6 months' time? That's going to move very, very quickly. So we'll see sort of more of these autonomous personal assistants and more capability moving into AI, so that somebody who's augmented with these capabilities will massively outcompete somebody who isn't using them. So you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by somebody who's using AI. Yeah. And the same will be true on a business to business level. A business who sit there, put their head in the sand, I don't need to worry about AI. They won't worry about it, they'll carry on doing the business the way they've always done it, but somebody will come along who's more efficient and is able to operate at a lower cost base than they are, so they'll be able to do more or just outperform them in terms of capability.
Yeah, so it's coming whether you like it or not. You might as well be fully aware of it and see what areas of your business could benefit from it, without losing the integrity of kind of who you are, the service you offer, that customer service. We're looking at the recruitment side of it, thinking where could we implement it, what would be best. And when somebody's buying a house, they're thinking it's a big decision in their life, and someone's moving their career, they want to talk to a person about these big decisions in their lives. And when you kind of add AI to the mix, you're like, oh, hang on a second, how's that going to, is that what I want for my big decision? But maybe when you've got 1,000 applications for a job, maybe a chatbot has a place in that particular high volume world. And when it comes to a more kind of direct conversation with that candidate that has been sifted through quite efficiently, they're getting a better experience there, and we're getting a better process through to our client as well. So yeah, it's probably got an area for high volume that I can see. I've not really looked at the whole process thinking where could it have best impact now, but I get the impression that it's got a place, and we're not going to be replaced like you said, we're going to be almost enhanced by it instead of replaced by it.
And it's been a very quick change. So these large language models that are driving all of the AI initiatives at the moment were invented out of a paper called Attention is All You Need in 2017 out of Google, and that defined the capability of a transformer. And when you think about language is hard. There's a very simple saying, the cat sat on a mat because it was fat. In the context of that sentence, what does it refer to? Well, the cat was fat.
Well, yes.
So in that sentence, it referred to the cat. But if you change the sentence to say, the cat sat on a mat because it was flat, you've added one letter L to fat. You've completely changed the context of it. It now refers to the mat. The cat sat on the mat because it was flat. How you teach that capability to software effectively was the basis of the transformer model. And it looks backwards and looks forwards to understand the context, and then guesses the next word in sequence. And that's all ChatGPT does.
Yeah.
So it has an understanding of the context, but it's been trained on effectively all of the written word that's on the internet, lots of books vast amount of other information. And then it's very, very accurate at guessing the next word in sequence. But we've then seen that by adding more data, adding more compute, you can continually improve on that capability. And that despite it only being a forward forecast, an autoregressive predictor, they call them, it's just guessing that next thing in sequence, but actually it's able to gain understanding. And with the release of GPT-4 from OpenAI, you can ask it very complex questions about things that are in that text that you're sharing, and it can give insights. So we're then able to use that as the basis of an understanding model. You're effectively adding intelligence into a process, because you can say, in this block, are any of these things answered? And if they're answered, then do these things. So you can combine the understanding that you can extract from that text with logic and build an entirely new customer flow. So just from that, how do you handle the difference between a flat and a fat, mat or cat? They're able to build out this capability that has evolved into large language models. And now effectively the amount of text that's available has been used, all of it's already been consumed. And so the next wave of data, even GPT-4 is split into two versions effectively. It's multimodal. It has the ability to understand words, but it also has the ability to understand images, and that's not publicly released yet. Google is about to release a new tool called Gemini. It's expected in December, and that's been trained on not only all of the images and all of the written word, it's also taken extracts of YouTube, taken every single video, broken every video down into frames. Every single one of those frames is annotated data because it's got all of the information about the video. It can be then combined with, within this image, we've identified these things. Again, that's just computer vision. So they've got I think it's 14 trillion tokens of data just from YouTube. And that's then being combined with all of the books, all of the images, all of the audio that they've got access to, along with some action data sets and the ability that comes from AlphaFold and AlphaGo, where they've solved the ability to play computer games. What's coming next is going to make the capability we've got now seem simplistic and child's play, and yet the world already, the majority of people aren't using the capabilities that are in ChatGPT properly. Somebody will go on and go, oh, I asked it to write a blog and it didn't do a very good job. Did it not do a very good job, or did you ask it badly? Because it's the standard principle of something in, something out. The better the content that you put in, the better the quality of output you get. And that's just going to be more and more true.
Do you think that it's right for, well, not that it's right, but do you think it's fair that there's, from a client perspective, there is that element of fear that, everyone now is learning how to use, for example, ChatGPT, and that, as you were kind of hinted on, that, in that creative mindset, there are people that, for their whole lives have worked on, certain pieces of writing and doing creative work, and now there is, I guess, some software that can just do it for you, and someone, if they ask the right question, could produce a really good piece of work, or in some circumstances, some really good coding. There are points now, I think, a conversation that we had before about different kind of like AI technologies you talked about, was it Claude AI? And they've got like a much better score when it comes to, writing the right sort of code and being able to produce something that works. Do you think that it's right for people to maybe have that little bit of fear that, people can now just do something without the training? If they ask ChatGPT the right question, is it going to give them an answer as if they've, done all that training and got the qualifications?
Does qualification prove that you're better than somebody else at something? I think it comes down to somebody who is working with these tools, they're effectively augmented. They've boosted their access to information and they've effectively boosted their IQ. So they're using tools, as long as they know, if you understand the principles of coding, then you can have a very successful interaction with some of these tools and you can write code incredibly quickly. Now, you still have to check it, you still have to make sure it's doing exactly what it says on the tin. But why wouldn't you use those capabilities if you're a coder? Because if you can produce something 10 times quicker than you could before, then you're more efficient. You can outperform somebody that isn't. So those people that choose not to use the tools, they're entitled to that. They're welcome to continue in the way they've always operating. It's more of a challenging conversation when it comes to creative arts, like writing, when it comes to painting, to drawing, when you see in the style of outputs.
Yeah.
And the questions around copyright and integrity of ownership there are still very challenging ethical areas. But over the 18 months since text-to-image tools have existed, 15 billion images have been produced. I'm sure it's 15 billion. I'll come back to you on that. But essentially, the same number of images have been produced in 18 months as were taken as photographs in the first 149 years of photography. So we're seeing this exponential growth in terms of the capability, in terms of the output produced, and that's cutting across almost every industry and sphere. And now we're moving from the sort of, early on we had predictive capability, so based on this information, what's the next thing likely to happen? Then we've had a big wave of generative AI, taking all this wealth of previous information, producing me something that's based on all of that capability. So write me a paper based on this, in this tone, considering these things, out it spits. Produce me an image of sunset over some Thai islands. Image is out. Now we're moving towards truly inventive, where AI is being solving medical challenges, coming up with entirely new ways of attacking cancers. But we're about to move into truly autonomous, which is why I like the sign on your wall behind you, where these solutions will be able to act on their own behalf. And we've got early versions in such as AutoGPT, and now with the ACE framework that Dave Shapiro has released. But there is a capability within ChatGPT already. If you're a premium paid subscriber, you can access something called Advanced Data Interpreter. And that has the capability to write code, to validate its own code, to solve a problem. And where it finds errors, it fixes its own code. So it has agency, it's operating in a sandbox, it's not able to run that code in the wild. But you can say, here's a spreadsheet, analyse that, make me a graph. I don't like the graph in that way, can you change it to this format? Okay, now can you change the colour legend to be pastels? Now you've got that, can you export that as an image? Okay, now can you make the HTML page that wraps around it using all of the information from the original spreadsheet in terms of titles and headers, outputs of web page. So you've then gone from here's a spreadsheet to something that presents that idea in the way that all of the work has been done through this autonomous agent, and you've just been guiding it. And it just had its goal statements and access to information limited within that sandbox. But the capability it had is that of a person. So it's like you're working with a really good data analyst, but it's there at the top of a...
So speed, the access to information is just instant, almost instantaneous.
And the breadth of capability. So if you then said, oh no, actually I don't want it in a HTML page, can you write it in this coding framework in that language? It will write it in that language for you. It can understand all sorts of things that are beyond the capabilities of an individual, because it's been trained on all of the knowledge that we've had in books, papers, all of GitHub's training data, all of the code that's ever been submitted to GitHub, that's training data that was used to train Codex. So the capabilities there are just breathtaking and cut across individual humans' capabilities. So you can ask a question, you can get an answer that the best person in the office would have been able to give you, but you're able to get it from your phone when you're in your lounge or on a stag do or on a beach. You're able to solve work challenges quicker than you would have been able to when you're in a work environment.
Does it scare you a little bit? How quickly this has changed, and how quickly you can gain access to that sort of detail of information? As you say, normally if I had a specific problem, I might go to someone who's been doing this job for I don't know how many years, and we'd probably have a conversation about it, maybe have to do a little bit of research into it and think about it. But in this case, you could have an interesting question and not really know where you'd get that information from, and it's just able to give it to you.
So that aspect doesn't scare me, it excites me.
Okay.
Because working in corporate environments, I've always found everything to be too slow, too reliant on people holding information, and there not actually being the person who had the answers within the business. Often everything was decision by consensus. So having access to information rapidly and anybody being able to have that information is excellent in terms of creating a high-performing organisation. So anybody in our team has the ability to do arguably anything that anybody can if they can come up with that original idea. So then it's just how do you execute that idea as quickly as possible. I think it's scarier when you think about, okay, what's coming next? What about the technology 2-3 versions down the line? So GPT-4 is fine, GPT-5, GPT-6, what will Google have in comparison? Meta are open sourcing all of their solutions, so that means anybody has access to all of these latest and greatest capabilities. What happens when they're used in inappropriate ways? So I'm not concerned about the sort of the Terminator scenarios from the 90s. I think it's far more concerning what will people do with these narrow forms of AI as we work towards general intelligence. When we have general intelligence, there's obviously the control question, how we ensure that it stays aligned, that it's working in our best interests. But even that's where it becomes really challenging. Because if it's the same intelligence as the smartest person you know, and the smartest person you know can have a conversation and you can be working with them. Imagine there's a team of those smartest people that you know, 10 of them, and they're able to work at the speed that we operate at. But a computer with the same intelligence operating at 1,000 times the speed we do is going to outperform that team of 10 by a factor of 100. And it's going to continue doing it. And we're creating the ability for these intelligences to be far more capable than we are as people. So there is an area of concern around how we ensure that the technology that we're building is aligned to the best interests of humanity. But the capabilities that we get as we go through that process are breathtaking.
I guess it would be, from my perspective, I speak to candidates every single day, and whenever I speak to software engineering candidates, they say, I want to work in AI. And I'm like, I don't even know how you get started in that. As you say, there's, a lot of different industries now are taking up as much as possible and trying to implement automation and AI into as many areas as humanly possible. But as someone who has obviously been passionate about this for a long time, and now, it's now come around to the point where you get to do this every day, what advice would you give to, let's say, someone coming out of university that is actually really passionate about AI and they want to get into, working with it and working with it every day? What steps would you get them to take?
So I think they'd be the same steps for that candidate as they would be for anybody, any point in their career. If you're not excited about the capabilities of this technology and not thinking, how can I involve AI in my workflow, in my day, in order to improve my capabilities, then you're already being left behind. So in order to get started working in AI, there isn't anybody that's got more experience in large language models than 2017, because that's when they started, and that was a very, very small window. There have been people who've been playing with GPT-3 since it became available as an API, but really ChatGPT only came out 30th of November last year. The world has shifted so much in that period of time. If you played with Midjourney to produce images, the capability's gone from people having 10 fingers on each hand to beautiful, perfect faces and perfect hair in a matter of months. So it would be the same recommendation to anybody, which is start playing with the tools, watch the podcasts from the thought leaders about what's possible, and start just getting familiar with the capabilities and play. Get in there, see what you can do, see what the capabilities are, have a go at cloning your own voice. See what happens once you've cloned your voice and you then create a statement, a presentation using ChatGPT, combine that with a cloned voice, add an avatar, have the lip sync avatar. You can do it in a remarkably small amount of time, but just getting those skills puts you above 99.9% of the candidates. And then you've got evidence that you can say in an interview, well, I did this. The majority of other people won't be able to state. So I think it's as true from a candidate's perspective as it is for an employee or an individual or a freelancer. These skills are going to be essential, and actually having the experience, being able to vocalize what you can do and demonstrate, is the difference between you and your competition.
So what do you think the future of AI is going to look like? You mentioned earlier in a chat we were having that, you know, you can predict what's going to happen. You can almost see it happening. It's just waiting for it to fall into place. But, you know, in the next year, 2 years, what do you think it's going to look like? How are those capabilities going to change?
Well, I think we'll see the first fully, really capable personal assistants coming in the next 3 to 6 months, and you'll be able to hand off tasks. So the sort of virtual assistant role as it's existed, that capability will be available to almost anybody. So when you're thinking about the daily tasks that you do in work and the tasks that you do at home, I think you'll be able to offload quite a lot of those to AI and just have it done. And that's going to give you the peace of mind and time back to work on other aspects. The area that's really interesting to me is the embodiment of these large language models and AGI into robotics. And there's a lot of companies now, but 6 that are really seriously building capabilities that have the physical dexterity to do a lot of what we do day to day. And so within manufacturing, within dangerous and hazardous environments, and ultimately within home environments, we'll get more and more capable automatic robotics. So where you might have a lawnmower at the moment, if you haven't got a robot lawnmower, by the way, get one, they're brilliant. If you haven't got a robot vacuum
it existed.
cleaner, well, you should never mow your grass, the robots do a better job. As long as you don't have a small dog, then it can get challenging.
Oh gosh.
But the capability of these robotic solutions to be able to do almost anything that a man or woman can do is coming, and it's coming fast. There's a company called Sanctuary who've got a robot called Phoenix, and they've got a podcast series, and they post these 15 to 20-second clips. It's called Robots Do Stuff, or Doing Stuff, and it will pick up a test tube, open a test tube, put something in it. It will pack a box, it will pour a drink, and it's just demonstrating the dexterity capability it has as they go through their training processes in different environments. Tesla's got one. There's all sorts of different robots coming. So I think we'll see a big change in manufacturing environments, whereas traditionally a robot had to be structured to work in an environment, and that effectively work environment was restructured around the robots. So when you look at car manufacturing, engine manufacturing, you've got these big robots working inside cages. Whereas if you're moving to a point where you've got humanoid robots that are dexterous, they work wherever people worked. So the jobs that we didn't want to do or we were struggling to fill, we can now fill them with robots, freeing up more time for people.
I'm just picturing Amazon's vast warehouses with their picking arms and how slow it would be to send somebody down the end to get a box from, you know, the top shelf. But having those picking arms and those, they're larger than football fields, aren't they? They're huge.
Yeah.
And they're just completely automated now, which is
If
incredible.
you think about the solution that Ocado have, they've got Factory, effectively a warehouse pick and pack station, and it's all built around a specific robot solution to pick everything.
Yeah.
That company that built that was Kindred. They were bought by Ocado. The founding team behind Kindred started Sanctuary. So they've then taken that capability and effectively the constraints that they had within we must operate in this picking facility for groceries to how do we build a fully autonomous human robot that's able to do anything. And the progress they're making is breathtaking. So we're going to see some really, really fancy robots that can do some amazing things. We're going to have great personal AIs that are able to take the monotonous tasks out of our lives. But even sooner than that, Microsoft are rolling out Copilot across their Windows and Office suite that's able to just do things. So getting you to first draft on something, reviewing your emails, suggesting formats for your presentations, with access to all of the company information, all of your information within your company drives, just able to do it. So we're seeing great capability within Microsoft's portfolio. Google have just released a new version of Bard, which has the ability to interact with Google Flights, all of the reviews and history that's on Google. So you can say, I want to travel to Vancouver. Can you create me an itinerary for this long? Can you look at flight options? Can you recommend some hotels? And it will come back with a succinct statement that says, here's your flight options, here's some hotels, here's an itinerary. Gemini, its next version, will allow you to take action on that. So you say, okay, that all looks good, can you book it please? And it then goes off and books your holiday for you.
It's interesting you said that, because a lot of people think about their jobs and business, but to get the most out of enjoying your holiday using AI and, you know, having your itinerary and having it all mapped out for you, all that time, you know, researching and almost
reading all the reviews, trying to work out where's good to go and eat and not knowing.
And there'll be some people that are willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
We've got online shopping now. You don't actually need to go to a supermarket every week. Some people still choose to. They want to pick and feel their own veg. Others will choose to go, okay, I'm going to have the same stuff delivered every week, and get to a point where your fridge knows exactly what's in the fridge, the state of all the things in your fridge, controls your shopping list for you, makes recommendations on what you should be buying. You haven't bought any beer for a while, garage is looking a bit empty, do you want to get some more?
That would be so helpful. It's always when you go shopping and you think, the carrots were fine, they were fine last time I checked. And you come home and they're just not, and then you've got to go out again just to pick up some more. If the fridge could tell me that it's done, like you need to buy some more, that would be ideal.
And they exist.
Where are they?
Well, they're expensive and they're big.
True.
But I think all of these technologies trickle down. So the early Roombas were very expensive, robot vacuum cleaners, and not very good. But very quickly, the technology has proliferated to lots of different companies, lots of availability, and you can get something that's incredibly capable for low cost. You can have one for each floor of your house if you want. And you just see the same thing applying across different technology types, where we're applying elements of AI, elements of automation, and embodying it in a physical solution so that it's taking time away from you. My lawn's never looked as good since I've got a robot lawnmower, because every day it cuts off a tiny little bit, mulches it in. So when it's dry weather...
every day?
Every day.
Does it still just sit outside then? Does it have a little box that it sits
outside, in? Sits outside, and then it tells you when it starts to get cold that it's time to take it in for the winter.
That's cute really too. Cute. Yeah. That's so sweet. It's like a little pet.
Yeah, you get tempted to put a face on it.
I would definitely want to do that, yeah.
It's really fascinating, so it's easy to go down little rabbit holes of information to be like, hang on a second, we're going down that direction. Now we're talking about real life robots, not just, dealing with data. It kind of goes everywhere.
But I think that's nice.
It's out of control. That's what it is.
It is, yeah. It's absolutely terrifying, but in a good way, I promise. Just a little bit scared, but not too much.
Not Judgment Day scared.
No, not Judgment.
It's come a long way since asking Jeeves. We've come a long way.
I've never seen Terminator, so I think that probably
We're
helps.
living it now instead.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Let's not build bipedal robots.
No.
Anything.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. It's been a really great conversation. It's given us some real insight into what AI is, where it's going, and I guess how we can use it in our daily lives and how it's already there, maybe if we even don't know it. But yeah, really, really great to chat to you. Thank you so much for your time. And
my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.